Welcome back to the Judgment Infrastructure Podcast. Over the last 11 episodes, we have built structural foundations, launched discipline, authority versus popularity clarity, the authority flywheel, archive indexing architecture. Today, we conclude season 1 with something critical. Because building authority is one challenge, protecting and scaling it, that is governance. Today's question: how do you protect your intellectual capital while scaling influence? Let's apply the 2080 rules. Part 1: what most people see. Most creators believe intellectual capital is ideas, opinions, episodes, books, personal branding. They assume that once something is published, it is secure. But publication is not governance. Exposure is not protection. Visibility is not control. Without governance, doctrine dilute. Part 2: the critical 20%. Here is a structural 20%. Intellectual capital must be governed like infrastructure, not expressed like emotion. If doctrine expands without protection, it fragments. It is misinterpreted. It is diluted. It is copied without attribution. It loses coherence. Governance ensures clarity, consistency, control, expansion. Part 3: 5 why structural diagnosis. Let's apply 5 why. Why 1? Why do strong thinkers lose positioning over time? Because their idea becomes scattered. Why 2? Why do ideas scatter? Because expansions outruns doctrine clarity. Why 3? Why does expansion outrun clarity? Because growth incentive override structural discipline. Why 4? Why do growth incentives dominate? Because visibility feels urgent. Why 5? Why is urgency prioritized over governance? Because creators think influence equal reach. That is the root. Part 4: intellectual capital as infrastructure. Think of your doctrine like a power grid, a water network, a transport system. If expansion occurs without load testing, redundancy, central control, the system collapses. Similarly, intellectual expansion without governance causes drift. Drift weakens category ownership. Part 5: the 4 pillars of intellectual governance. To protect and scale doctrine, you need first, definition. Second, documentation. Third, boundary control. Fourth, licensing discipline. Let's break them down. First, definition. If your doctrine cannot be defined in structured language, it cannot be governed. You must define core framework, core vocabulary, core belief, core problem, core enemy. Clarity precedes control. Second, documentation. Podcast alone is not documentation. Documentations include structured manuscript, archive index, framework summary, written doctrine, text stabilized thinking. Stabilized thinking resists distortion. Third, Boundary control. Not every collaboration aligns. Not every sponsorship fits. Not every expansion is strategy. Governance requires saying no. Misaligned exposure weakens doctrine integrity. Integrity strengthens long-term leverage. Fourth, licensing discipline. If others want to use your framework, define your standard. Provide structure guidelines. Maintain attribution clarity. Scaling without standard lead to dilution. Standard protect positioning. Part 6. The 2080 application. The 20% that determine 80% of intellectual durability. Doctrine clarity. Archive structure. Platform independence. Boundary discipline. Not constant content production. Not rapid expansion. Not visibility spike. Governs growth compound. Ungoverned growth destabilize. Part 7. Platform independent. If your doctrine lives only on Spotify, YouTube, social media, you are platform dependent. Platform dependent create fragility. True governance requires own website, downloadable archive, email database, structures index, ownership reduce systemic risk. Part 8. Scaling without dilution. To scale safely, repeat core vocabulary. Maintain consistent structure. Audit doctrine quarterly. Correct drift immediately. Scaling is not about adding topic. It is about reinforcing pillar. Reinforcement strengthens gravity. Gravity attracts line expansion. Part 9. Civilization level framing. Civilization framing positioning require multi-year consistency. If you redefine yourself annually, you weaken long-term memory. If you reinforce structures annually, you build category performance. Legacy requires governance, not creativity bursts. Part 10. Authority life cycle. Stage 1. Creation. Stage 2. Stabilization. Stage 3. Expansion. Stage 4. Governance. And Stage 5. Legacy. Most creators stop at expansion. Few move into governance. Fewer build legacy. Governance determines longevity. Part 11. Practical implementation. To govern your intellectual capital, first, write a one-page doctrine statement. Second, maintain master vocabulary glossary. Third, conduct quarterly drift audit. Fourth, reject misaligned opportunity. Fifth, convert core framework into structure publication. Structure precedes scale. Scale follow governance. Closing principle. Most creators produce ideas. Few protect them. Most expand quickly. Few endure consistently. If your podcast becomes doctrine, and doctrine becomes documented, and documentation becomes governed, you are no longer building content. You are building infrastructure. And infrastructure outlives personality. This concludes season 1 of the Judgment Infrastructure podcast. Next season, we move into deeper application, strategy decision framework, governance case study, infrastructure failure, civilization level analysis. Until then, define clearly, document precisely, govern deliberately. This is the Judgment Infrastructure Podcast.